So now we're going to make unit 2, the umbrella, this side of the umbrella with the handle. So the handle is sewn on the light blue before it is made into the half square triangle and added this with the sliver added to it. So to do that, we're going to need the following. You're going to need 2 5.5-inch squares, red, the dark red and the light blue. You're also going to need a brown piece of strip that it measures 1 1/4 by 5.5. So what we're going to start with is cutting down our 5.5 first. We're going to cut off 3/8 from one side of our unit. So making sure that we are doing it on one side, on the correct side. So you want to make sure you're going to be lining it up on the right side of your fabric. So I'm going to be cutting from my side, right side of the fabric, and we're going to be cutting 3/8 away from that side. Just like that. We don't need this, so we can put that to the side. Now we're going to go to the sewing machine, and we are going to sew, after we get everything lined up, the brown on this one side that we cut off of with a good 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then we're going to press the seams open when we get that done. So when we come back, I will have this complete, and I'll show you how we go from there. So now we've come back and I've pressed my seams open. We now need to make sure that we have a 5.5-inch piece of fabric here. So I'm going to line up my ruler, ensure that we got 5.5. Well, I know we're going to have to trim at least 1/8 off here, and I'd rather trim off than make too small. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut 1/8 off. So now we are ready to start making our half square triangles. So we're going to take our red and we're going to line up our fabric on our red. We're going to go ahead and take our magic wand that you can get from Studio 180 Designs or at your local quilt shop, and you're going to take your center line of your ruler and line it up in your center points of your squares here, or your square here. So we're going to line that up. Line it up on those points. And now since we have a dark piece here, I'm going to be using a different color pencil there so I can see it. But I'm going to use this pencil here, and I'm going to mark down the center and do on the other side. So we've got a 1/4 inch on the center lines of those. And I'll go ahead and use this pencil here for demonstration for cutting, making our lines here. So we're making our lines all the way across. So now we can take these to the sewing machine and sew your 1/4 inch seam lines on those drawn lines that you just made. So when we come back, we'll be able to cut this open and start working on our slivers. So I've gone ahead and cut them apart, and we really don't need this side here. So we're going to go ahead and put that to the side. I've pressed it towards the light side, which is the light blue and the brown. So now we are ready to add our slither unit. So we're going to do it the same way as we have done before. We're going to go ahead and cut our piece off of our red, dark red here, and then we're going to sew this piece on top of that. So let's go ahead and use our corner beam tool, again, I'm going to lay this down. So we're going to be pulling away from that handle. We're going to use our center beam trim line number 1, which is the dashed line, and we're going to line up on this 4-inch finished unit size. So we're going to go ahead and lay those down on there, trim away. Lay our unit down. So our 1/4 inch seam allowance, press towards the light red, and when we come back, we'll be ready to trim. So now I've already done my 1/4 inch seam allowance, pressed it to the right or to the light red, and now we're ready to trim up our unit. Now we want to make sure we get to the 4.5 inch size as usual, and we're going to do it the same way as we did our slant to the left. So I'm going to flip this around. Again, referring back to our point here and our solid line here and our arrows. So let's go ahead and line this up here, and we are going to line up our placement line and our X, and we're going to ensure that we have everything else lined up. It may take, like I said before, it takes a few minutes to get it all lined up. You want to make sure you're getting a good cut. Now you want to make sure that your 4-inch is very close to the line, your placement line of your brown. So we are very, very close. So now we're ready to trim. So we are going to go up and across. And now we're going to flip it around like I just did, 180 degrees, and we are going to line everything back up. And now you're going to ensure that your arrows are lining up and our points just like before on this blue seam here. There, we are close. Here we go. I'm just making sure everything is lined up as I go, because we want a perfect block. And we are ready, to cut. So we're going to go up and across like we have done before. 4.5 inches. So now we have our perfect unit. So when we get ready to start sewing these, we will have a handle that will look like this when complete. So now we'll make the rest of our handles to finish our units out. So now we're going to make Unit 3, the handles. The handles are going to be 2 on the right side and 1 that's facing the left side. So what we're going to be doing now is showing you what you need to make these units. You're going to need is 4 squares that measure 4.5. You're also going to need 3 browns that measure 1 5/8 and 3 browns that measure 3/4 by 4.5 long. So to get started, you're going to go ahead and take your squares, draw a diagonal line across Then you're going to lay it on top of the right side of your fabric. So your right sides are together in a corner. You're going to go ahead and stitch down that line. Once you have that stitched, you're going to repeat one more time for this side. Then you're going to take and trim away 1/4 of an inch from that seam line and press the seams open. So when we return, I will have this complete and we'll be ready for the next step. So now that I have our right side triangle all set up, we are ready to go to the next step of sewing our handle on. So before we do that, we need to remove 1/4 of an inch from our piece of fabric here. So let's go ahead and trim that piece away. Just remember, you just need to take 1/4 of an inch off of that edge. Now we are ready to take our 3/4 by 4 1/4, 4 1/2, and we're going to sew with a good 1/4 of an inch seam allowance down this side. So our handle, when we open this up, will look like this. So you'll want something like this. So remember, you want to do it from this side, a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, and then you're going to take it to your iron afterwards, and you're going to press the seams open. We're going to press the seams open so it doesn't get so bulky when we're working with the other pieces. So let's go ahead and do that, and when we return, we'll go ahead and make the left side handles. So now I've completed the handle on the right side. Now we're going to flip it over, and you can see that I have pressed it open. And pressing it open makes it very flat looking when you lay it down. And it'll be easier when we sew our units together. So next we'll be working on the opposite side. So what I've gone ahead and done is with the right hand side, I've sewn that square on the right hand side. This time we're going to go ahead and sew our square on the left side. I've already gone ahead and sewn it on with a 1/4 of an inch and pressed the seams open. So now we're going to go ahead and cut another 1/4 of an inch off this side, on this side of our unit, which will be our left side, just 1/4 of an inch. In doing this, we're ensuring that we get a good 4 1/2 inch block when we're finished. Then we're going to take our handle and we're going to go ahead and sew that on. When we come back, you'll see the complete unit for that one, and we'll show you how to assemble all of these units. So now we've completed our handles. You have 2 on the right side and 1 on the left side, and you'll have 1 extra 4 1/2 inch square. We're going to be using that when we start putting our rows together. So when we come back, I will show you how to assemble the rows. Now we're ready to begin the assembly of our rows. So I suggest what we start with is unit 1s. We're going to take our left slants and we're going to sew them to our right slants so we have a nice V umbrella looking shape when we're completed. You're going to flip your right side sliver unit over. You're going to sew a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, ensuring that you line up your points on each side. Then you're going to press towards that dark sliver unit that is in your right side. You're going to press towards this. You're going to do that 3 times for those units. Then you're also going to make one that is sewn together but that has the handle. So this will be unit 2 is sewing to the unit 1, the right hand side slant. So you're continuing on with your umbrellas, except you're just adding this one with the handle. We're going to keep pressing towards that dark red slant piece. When you're ready to sew this row together, you're going to take the unit that you made with the handle and one of your regular unit 1s that you put together, and you're going to sew them together. And you're going to sew them with the seam to the handle, a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then you're going to press towards that unit 1. You're going to press towards the right side, that light color there, you want to press towards that. And be sure to follow your instructions on the pressing if you lose track. And then we're going to add handles to our 3rd row. We're going to take our right and left side handles. We're going to sew them on side of a unit 1 block, and we're going to press them towards that umbrella unit. The 4th row is we're going to sew a 4.5 inch square to a right side handle. That's how you make all of these rows. Do not put these rows together. We'll be putting those together later on as we go forward through the mystery quilt. Thank you for joining me as we completed week 1, the umbrella blocks, for the April Showers mystery quilt. Be sure to come back next week as we start something new and exciting.